Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me on this intuitive development journey. How is everybody? How are you guys doing this month of February? How has the February energy forecast been playing out for you? I don't know if you guys can hear it in my voice, but I am recording this. I've definitely come down with some sort of cold or virus of some sort. So I've been a little bit down for the count over the last couple of days. And it really feels like that energy forecast is really playing itself out for me and my family as well. There have definitely been a lot of little hiccups along the road, right? Little hiccups, little inconveniences, little things that kind of go out that are kind of outside of your plans. The unexpected is what's to be expected this month. And I'm really, really seeing that in all of the people that I talk to, in even just in my own neighborhood. It feels like either if you're really far out of alignment, you're really going through it. Like in my particular neighborhood who kind of maybe are still hate to sound really like woo-woo or conspiracy theorist, but who are really still hooked up to the matrix, if you will, and are just miserable with their lives, are really being shown what's not in alignment for them. And so, a lot of my neighbors are experiencing issues with their job security and issues with finances and issues with health and, childcare and all of the things. Like it's just anything that's not serving their highest good is being kind of pulled into question. And then for those of us who are maybe a little bit more on our paths or more in alignment, and I like to consider myself, to be in a path of alignment. I definitely feel like through my work, I'm hopefully fulfilling my path and purpose, but there are always little tweaks and things that we can make to improve our life. And, the signs are always very clear when your guides are trying to, especially this month, when your guides are really trying to get you out of your own way. They're going to make it abundantly clear where you're stuck, even if you're not aware of it yourself, or more importantly, if you are aware of it but keep stepping over it and just ignoring that fact. That really is coming to fruition for me. So it is not lost on me that I am sick this month, or that I've gotten sick. There's definitely been a pattern for me of not taking it easy, and doing more than maybe, and taking on more than maybe I should be, and not getting enough rest. And so, definitely feeling that and listening to my guides on that one. So it's not surprising. And then, just like other little hiccups, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have been seeing me post on Instagram, but like silly things, right? We just had a huge major snowstorm and we've had a few of them. It's still ongoing. And what does that mean for everything when it kind of falls out of whack? And what does that mean for the collective, right? If things are getting shut down, right? You literally cannot leave your driveway, kind of like a mini COVID situation, right? At least in our neighborhood, where you're being strongly advised and strongly encouraged not to leave your house, not to get on the road, because the snow is just so deep. And so, what does that mean for you? So, I'm definitely very aware of the February forecast and how it's been playing out on both an individual and a collective level this month. And I'm curious if that's sort of going on for you guys as well, if you've been experiencing lots of little hiccups along the road, little inconveniences. Um, yeah, definitely send me a message on Instagram and let me know. How is the February energy forecast playing out for you? And I do want to say, just like hang tight, because this is the month where, again, the things that are proving to be very uncomfortable for you, they're being brought right to your attention because they're falling away and they need to fall away. The tweaks that need to be made are being made this month so that you kind of raise up your hands and say, no more, I'm not letting this happen again. And you really, really make it happen, and make it happen strongly, because my guess is, and although I haven't done the March energy forecast yet, my guess is that things are really going to start to hit the ground running for you in the next month or two. And so anything that's not in alignment cannot exist if you're about to do a big quantum leap. So that's my guess and that's my suggestion. That being said, I do want to mention before I jump into today's episode that I do want to support you. If this month feels like a big what the hell, and you're like, everything just feels like it fell apart for me this month, and you're needing some guidance from your guides, or you feel like you really got the rug pulled out from under you, I really want to be here for you. I would love to channel your guides for you and help you kind of get some clarity on your next steps ahead. So if you weren't on my email list and you didn't see the big sale that I'm having, I'm announcing it here on the podcast as well. You can use the code FEB100, so FEB as in short for February, FEB100 for $100 off of a spiritual guidance session, whether that's a 45-minute session or a 90-minute session. And that code expires on March 1st. This is really just to support you through this crazy month of February. So definitely you can check the links in the show notes for that promo code and head over to my website and book a session and grab that code while it's still available. And that being said, if you are not already on my email list, I am often sending my sales first to my email list. So if you want to hear about it first, definitely hop onto my website, jessicarachel.co, and sign up for my email list. You can either do it by taking the Witch Claire or You quiz, or there's just a form right on the homepage there. Sign up and get some spiritual messages. I'm always sharing, I think this month I just shared, some easy ways to really help you navigate this month. And I often like to share sort of the steps forward that the guides are sharing with me to make sort of your life a little bit easier as you navigate each month. So definitely hop on and get onto my email list, so that you can receive those sales and those intuitive downloads that I'm receiving from my spirit guides as I receive messages for the collective. I like to pass them along. So definitely head over and do that. And then finally, before we dive into today's episode, which I actually want to say was a very much channeled episode, it really kind of came to me in the middle of the night, this episode. The question came through one of the members of the private intuition activation community. She asked me if I could do an episode on this topic about how to overcome your self-doubt and second guessing yourself. And I wasn't sure if I had enough to say about it, right? I felt like I had, I maybe had mentioned a lot of these things before, and I literally sat up in the middle of the night. It woke me. Like it woke me up with all of the 10 strategies that needed to come through to answer this exact question. And so, thank you to the members of the Activation community for asking me the question and asking me to make this an episode. I wrote that down and put it aside, waiting for the inspiration to come through. And then thank you, spirit guides, for just really just channeling through me. I often don't appreciate my guides waking me up in the middle of the night, but to be fair, this one it came through so easily, and I kind of get interrupted in my sleep more than often lately just because of the baby. And so I wasn't fully asleep. It was me trying to fall back asleep after a nursing session, and then just, whoa, the downloads came through. And thankfully, I keep a notebook beside my bed and just wrote all of these strategies down. And so here they are. I'm going to bring forward to you the 10 strategies to help you trust your intuition and overcome self-doubt. Because I think, guys, this is probably the biggest, biggest, biggest barrier to using and trusting or just developing your intuitive abilities is trusting yourself, getting over your self-doubt and second guessing yourself. So I really, really want to help you get over this. Get over this so that you can actually start channeling and trusting the messages that come through. And so before I do that, and we're going to talk really in depth about how we do this, I'm going to share all the strategies. I'm going to plug once again the Intuition Activation community. Come and join us over in our private Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. We are doing so many amazing things. We are meeting every week on Thursday afternoon. We're getting together and doing these beautiful intuitive development exercises. We're doing them in a small class form where everybody gets an opportunity to practice and receive immediate confirmation, because I'm sitting there confirming for you that what you received is what I'm receiving and the other students are receiving as well. So it's a really good way to build your trust muscle, guys. So if this episode resonates with you and this is something that you're really struggling with, the best way to do that is through a community of people and have people to practice on. And we're definitely going to talk about that too. But link in the show notes if you're ready to sign up. It's only $36 a month, and we're just about to get our book club started as well. We're going to be reading a really fun self-help book or self-help, self-improvement book, a little bit about manifestation that we're talking about together. So we're doing lots of cool stuff, lots of practicing, and yeah, I'm just really excited for more people to come and join us. We already have a really nice little group in there, and relationships are starting to form, and it's just so beautiful. So, if this episode is really resonating with you and you're ready to really overcome your self-doubt, the best way to do that is by coming and practicing because practice makes progress, and it doesn't hurt to get some feedback from a medium. So, come and join us. I'll be there every Thursday. Can't wait to see you in there. Okay, and the last thing I want to say is because this is a solo episode, please be sure to stick around for the end of this episode. I am going to be giving you a quick win, little intuitive activation or intuitive development exercise. So make sure to stick around for the end of this episode to listen to that exercise for another opportunity for you to practice strengthening your intuitive gifts. Okay, so let's hop into today's episode. Let's talk about the 10 strategies to help you get over your second guessing and your self-doubt so that you can finally start to trust your intuitive abilities. Okay, so my first strategy, and I always share this strategy right at the beginning of any intuitive development class I ever teach, whether it's my course, my program, my private coaching. This is always the first thing we do. And I call this creating your intuitive insurance policy. So create an insurance policy. What do I mean by this? You need to ask your guides to provide you with a physical sensation in your body that indicates to you that your guides are with you in that moment. So what does that mean? So that means that anytime you call your spirit guide in, you're going to feel a physical sensation in your body, the same one every time. So that if you are in fact doubting yourself in that moment, you can look for the physical sensation and know that your guides are there with you. And if your guides are there with you, then anything that's coming through to you in that moment you can trust is in fact a channeled message. Okay. So you must really, really use this first. Use this first. This is your front line. And guys, I use this still to this day. I've been channeling professionally for almost 6 years now. And in doing so, I still look for the sensation to make sure that I am in fact channeling in that moment, that I am in fact online. I look for it. And for me, the sensation feels like kind of like a tingling or warmth in my hands. It will also kind of feel like I usually, when I channel, I keep my hands faced palms up in my lap, and it'll almost feel like somebody's kind of like moving my hands back and forth in my lap. Kind of like I don't know, like like they're hovering a little bit or kind of shifting back and forth in my lap. And so whenever I'm channeling, as soon as I kind of start that meditation, I can start to feel my hands do that. And I know, okay, the guides are here with me. And so if anything that's coming out of my mouth, I'm starting to question, I'm starting to wonder, is that my own thought? Am I making that up? Is the sensation going on in my hands? Yes, it is. Okay, no, it's not coming from me. It's coming from my guides. So, how do you do this? How do you get your physical sensation? How do you know what your physical sensation is, what your insurance policy is? Well, you have to work with your guides. You have to ask them how or what your physical sensation is. So, again, you're going to call in your guides the same way that you would anytime that you want to channel. So, you're going to do something to get out of your head and into your body, take a few deep breaths, do a meditation, go for a walk, do whatever it is that helps you get grounded and relaxed and centered. Then you're going to call upon your spirit guides. This can look like, spirit guides, please come and join me in this moment. Spirit guides, are you here with me? Or something more formal like calling upon all of my spirit guides, loved ones, ascended masters, angels, and archangels. That's what I usually say, but I know it's a mouthful. It is enough to just say, spirit guides, are you here with me? And then you're going to say these exact words, spirit guide, please send a physical sensation through my body so that I can know that you are here with me. I'm going to repeat that. Spirit guides, please send a physical sensation through my body so that I can know when you are with me. And then take a deep breath, relax, and trust the first sensation that comes up in your body. Trust the first one. Now, this can look like a couple of things. For me, it's a sensation in my hands. Some people say they feel tingling or pressure in their third eye. I will say that for me, that was actually the first sensation I did get when I was just starting my channeling journey. It felt like somebody was pressing really strongly against my third eye, so that space between my eyebrows. But eventually, the sensation was almost too strong. It felt like somebody was pushing my head backwards, and it became very uncomfortable to channel because I was trying so hard to keep my head up, keep it upright because it felt like someone was pushing so hard. So I did actually, in fact, ask my guides to move the sensation to my hands. So, and I just did that out loud. Spirit guides, can you please move the sensation from my third eye to my hands? And I waited until I could feel some sort of sensation in my hands instead. So you can request your insurance policy. You can request it to be in your hands, or you can just see what comes up for you. Um, some people have told me that it can feel like sort of heat around their eyelids or heat on their head, heat on their face. Some people say they can feel tingling around their crown, right? The kind of top of their head or the circumference of their head. Some people feel like it's a heart opening. Some people feel like it's their shoulders dropping. Some people feel like it's a tickling sensation on their hands or their knees or their feet. Really, guys, it can be so many things. So if you're not sure of the sensation or it feels too subtle for you, I want you to ask them to turn up the volume of the sensation. So again, picturing a volume dial like you would on a radio, asking them to turn up the sensation. So spirit guides, please turn up the sensation so I can feel it very strongly. Turn it up by 50%, turn it up by 100%, choose a number and turn up the volume until it feels good. If it's too strong, ask them to turn it down. If you're still not sure, then just ask them to send a specific sensation into your hands so that you know you can feel it. So spirit guides, please send tingling in my hands so that I can know that you are here with me. And then wait a moment until you feel that sensation. And again, ask them to turn it up and turn it down. And after you do this, don't forget to thank your guides once you feel the sensation. So when you do feel it, say, thank you, I feel you. Give your guides the feedback that you're wanting from them. Let them know that you get it. Spirit guides do not have a physical body. They don't know what sensations you're feeling in your physical body. They can send you physical sensations, but they can't tell if it's too strong or not strong enough. You have to give them that feedback. So you have to tell them that it's perfect or that it's good. So thank you, I feel you, or that you need it stronger or that you need it not strong enough. I actually often find that spirit guides will either be way too subtle because they're trying to be gentle, or they go way too hard and too strong. And then you just have to tell them, like, whoa, tone it back, right? So they kind of, and you just have to show them where the middle ground is, right? And then trust that this is your insurance policy. I want you to look for this sensation every single time you call your guides in. The second you call your guides in, spirit guides, are you here with me? That sensation should pop up. Okay. And then anytime that you are asking questions there from there on out, right? Whether it's channeling for yourself, whether you've called in your guides or somebody else's guides, and you're channeling messages, that sensation should be with you throughout the duration of your channeling session. You should be able to notice it and detect it. Okay. And that way, anytime that you're wondering, did I make this up? You can right away go back to that sensation and go, nope, can't be me because my spirit guides are here with me. So, guys, do this before anything else. And you can't second guess yourself. You can't because you know the guides are there. If you're not sure that you're channeling, you are because your guides are telling you that you're channeling. You feel it in your physical body. Okay. So that's number one, create an insurance policy. Now, this number two, I feel like I've said it so many times on this podcast, but I can't underline it enough. My number two is practice channeling on others and share the knowings, the downloads, the messages that you are receiving for other people before you start doing it for yourself. Even if you're not sure that they're going to make sense or that they're going to resonate with another person, doesn't matter. Okay. Practice makes progress. But the more importantly, sometimes we are so opaque to ourselves. It can be so hard to channel for ourselves, but most people are very surprised to hear that it is actually 1,000 times easier to channel messages for someone else. Why? Because we can be way more objective to the result, to the answer. We don't have any attachment to the messages that come through for other people. We don't, it doesn't mean like we don't have any skin in the game, if you will. And so it's a lot easier for us to not judge the messages that come through. The other thing is that we know every detail of our own life, but we don't know all of the details of somebody else's life. And so we can throw something out there for them and having them confirm for you that it does in fact resonate for their lives and there's no way that you could have known that. Well, that is just so much confirmation. It's so much confirmation to know that you were able to receive a message that means so much to someone else and there's no way you could have known it meant so much to someone else. So practice on others, channel for others, bring through messages for others, call upon other people's guides. You have to be brave enough to share those downloads. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it in the moment. It doesn't mean that you have to be sitting in front of somebody calling in their guides and channeling for them like a medium would. It could be asking a question while you're on a walk or receiving a download from someone while you're on a walk. Maybe you get a message about somebody else's business that you know is for them. Be brave enough to throw that message out there and share it with them. Send them a voice note and say, "Hey, I got this download for you. Let me know if it resonates for you," and get that confirmation, right? Maybe you received a message for them in a dream, right? Maybe you had a thought about them and it lit up your whole body because you're claircognizant, right? So and so needs to do this. So and so should really try this, right? Again, you're going to receive so much information for other people. So be brave enough to throw it out there and let them confirm for you that it was in fact helpful for them. And if it was, then you're going to start to trust and notice those thought patterns the next time they come through. If the download came through for you while you were walking and it lit up your whole body and you were brave enough to share it with another person and that other person thanked you because the message really resonated with them, well, then you're going to start to notice that this is a pattern for you. Hey, when I go for a walk and I receive a certain thought and my whole body gets excited by it, I know that's a channeled message, right? So, because when I gave it to somebody else, it actually meant something for them. So, really, really start to be brave enough to share those messages with other people. Okay. Whether it came to you through a meditation or a walk or in the bathtub or in the shower, whatever it is, you can notice how it comes through. Okay. So, really practice on others and share the downloads that come through for other people and work with other people. And again, shameless plug for the intuition activation community. But if you're looking for people who are understanding, who are on the same journey as you, come and join us in the intuition activation community, because then you have people who are open to receiving those messages and are going to encourage you along the way. That's a great opportunity to really improve your intuitive gifts. Okay, so number three. Now, this one is a big one. And my number three is try not to second guess or overanalyze the messages you receive. Okay. A lot of the times when we channel, we imagine that the signs and symbols and words that we receive from our guides are going to be very metaphorical and that you're going to have to stretch really far to see the connection, what your guide is trying to tell you. And often this can lead us into the trouble of misinterpreting our guides or misinterpreting their messages. And that's where we can start to get tripped up because maybe we're misinterpreting them and sharing that information with someone else and then it doesn't resonate with them because we're having to stretch too far. So I'm going to underline this, guys. Your spirit guides are trying to be as clear as humanly possible with you. They are actually being very literal. Okay. It is not the case where you are having to, this is not a poetry class. Okay. They're not giving you a metaphor that you have to then interpret. It is not a Taylor Swift song that you have to kind of read between the lines and look for Easter eggs. It is not like that at all. Your spirit guides are trying to be as clear as humanly possible. So when they are giving you a sign, a symbol, an image, one word, whatever it is not for you to turn into a whole or dissect. It is for you to take it at face value. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of this. Um, if okay, so I'm actually going to give you two examples. One, and I bring this one up a lot because it was so intense for me and so powerful. When I was just starting my intuitive development journey, I kept asking my guides for a symbol, a sign that I'm on the right path. I think I was asking them specifically, should I be a teacher or not, or should I quit teaching? And I kept seeing this image of an owl in my mind. And I was like, what does that mean? And that's when I would jump on Google and look at what is an owl animal totem? What are the spiritual definitions of owl? And I was getting all of these messages about being wise, about looking in my periphery, right? Because owls can turn their heads all the way around. And like all of these messages that weren't making any sense, right? Like it made no sense. Why were they telling me to be wise? If I actually followed that, at that time in my life, what everybody else was telling me was wise was to stay being a teacher, right? And that's not what my guides were telling me. And it wasn't until I actually put that down and in real time, in real life, started actually seeing like owls everywhere, actual real owls in my life when I had never seen an owl before, like a real live owl, and suddenly started seeing them in nature everywhere. That it was my guides just letting me know you're on the right path, and we're like hitting you in the middle of the eyes, letting you know, like, yes, quit teaching, you're on the right path. Okay. Um, and this is really what would happen. So then I asked my guides for this, and then I would just be like, I don't get it, right? And I would go for a walk, and we used to have when my husband and I were living in a basement apartment when he was still in chiropractic college. We lived behind this beautiful ravine with this really incredible, very long walking path or trail, and I used to go on that trail all the time. And I kid you not, guys, I went on that trail right after one of these meditations where once again I saw an owl. And I had spent maybe an hour Googling it, finally gave up and went for a walk. And it was almost nighttime, and I started hearing an owl, like a hoo sound. And I was like, where is that coming from? I look up in a tree. Guys, I kid you not. I think I have a picture of it in my phone. I'll share this on Instagram if I can find the image. Seven baby owls sitting in a tree. I don't know if they were baby owls, but they were very little. Seven little owls sitting in a tree, just like staring at me. Just seven owls sitting right there. I've never seen an owl before, and here are seven of them, right? Sitting there looking up at me. And like, it was just right there. It was right there, right? So when my guides were sending me an owl, they were being quite literal. You're going to see an owl. This is a sign. This is a symbol. This is a confirmation. You're on your right path. If my question was, should I quit teaching? There's your answer. Yes, yes, you should quit teaching. And here's your confirmation. Everything's going to be fine. Okay. And so, right there, they weren't telling me be wise. They were telling me we're sending you owls. And this came up a lot in other situations. I think my husband and I later on were planning a trip. And again, I hadn't quite quit my teaching job, but I had already kind of decided we should. And I was questioning when we were going to go on this road trip out to Nova Scotia. And we knew I was about to quit my job, and switch to substitute teaching, but we were a little bit concerned about money because I definitely wouldn't be making as much if I was substitute teaching. We were like, should we spend the money or should we be a little bit more practical? And again, ask my guides, give me a sign if we're supposed to go on on this trip. And again, I saw in my mind this image of an owl, and I was like, why do my guides keep showing me owls in my mind? And again, I still not fully trusting it. Started Googling what does owls mean when you're trying to go on a trip, right? Like really, really trying to go down the spiritual route and trying to figure out if there was an interpretation to this. And in the end, we just decided to, go on the trip anyway. And guys, every single Airbnb that we stayed at, because we stayed at a bunch of different ones because we were, road tripping and staying in different cities. Every single Airbnb that we stayed at had these owl figurines in the house, right? One of them it was a welcome mat, like the welcome mat was all owls. One of them, they were all over the mantelpiece. Another one, it was like the toothbrush holders. There were owl figurines in every single house, and usually multiples of them, like in several different places throughout the Airbnb that we stayed at. Every single one. There wasn't a single Airbnb that we stayed at that didn't have an owl figurine, if not several of them in the house. So when I tell you your guides are being literal, they're being literal. They're actually sending you something. I'm going to give you another example that's not really in relation to a sign or a symbol, but just to kind of really hammer this home, because overanalyzing and second guessing yourself is one of the biggest reasons that we doubt ourselves. And so this one's more recent, but last week I was working with a client and she was asking me to ask her guide about her digestive health. Okay. And she was like, is there anything the guides can share with me about my digestion? And the guides kept showing me in my mind images of someone rubbing her feet. Now, guys, in my mind, I go, this makes no sense, right? So this is me overanalyzing. In that moment, chose not to share it and not say it out loud because I went, this makes no sense, right? Like, why would the guides show me rubbing her feet when she's asking about her digestion? And I thought, like, I'll say it a little bit later. Maybe it has something to do with self-care, right? Like, whatever. And the guides were relentless, of course. They kept showing me the image as we're talking about it. They showed it to me and they showed it to me and they showed it to me again. So finally, I just threw it out there and said, why are your guides showing me somebody rubbing your feet? They keep saying to rub your feet. When I finally said it out loud, she nodded. First of all, she nodded and said, yes, actually, in fact, I love getting my feet rubbed, but more importantly, and then the guide said reflexology. Now, again, I didn't make the connection in that moment. So I'm like, reflexology again, like, what does it have to do with your digestion? Why are they showing rubbing your feet? And she said, oh, okay, that makes sense. So she was having a situation that had to do like a little bit more with her digestive system being slow. So, things not moving through as quickly, if you get what I'm saying. And the guides were saying that if she got a reflexologist to rub a certain part of the arch of her foot, and they were showing me very specifically where on her foot they wanted her foot to be rubbed, that, or I guess it's an acupressure point. I think that's how reflexology works. But they were showing me that this would actually help move things along. And she then confirmed for me and she said, oh, that makes a lot of sense. She had said that when she had a similar problem several years ago, she had gone to a reflexologist who had worked on her feet and that actually moved things along for her. And she had forgotten about that. And so even though it made no sense to me why rubbing your feet would have anything to do with your digestive health, I had to kind of trust it and say it anyway. I couldn't overanalyze it. And it made sense to her, right? I didn't understand the significance, but she did. And so again, I couldn't overanalyze it, but they were being literal. They literally meant she needed to get her feet rubbed, right? Or worked on by a reflexologist. And so again, don't overanalyze it. Trust that your guides are being clear, that the images you're seeing, and if you're not clairvoyant, the words you're hearing or the downloads you're getting, the messages you're receiving, as simple as they are meant to be taken at face value. So don't overanalyze it. Don't stretch too far. That's where you can get into trouble with misinterpretation. And then you really will start to doubt yourself because you'll misinterpret and the messages won't land or resonate for you or somebody else. So really, really trust what your guides are saying at face value, even if it doesn't make sense to you right then in that moment. Okay, so is that number two or number three? Okay, number four. Um, this one is an interesting one. But I'm calling it look for the calm. Now, some people will say to trust the first answer that comes through, and I often say that, right? I always say trust the first thing that comes to mind, trust the first image that you see. But I actually want to change this a little bit to trust the calmest answer that comes through. Okay? Because sometimes, and especially if we are channeling for ourselves, we are asking a question for ourselves. Sometimes the first and fastest answer that comes through is the one that we've been telling ourselves that we should do, right? And it's not actually the answer that comes from your guides. Instead, I want you to trust the answer, the message, the download, the knowing that comes through that is the calmest, the one that feels centered and grounded. If it's coming through clairaudience, it feels like one word at the back of your head and then it maybe disappears. It maybe makes you drop your shoulders, breathe a little easier, right? There are no further explanations, caveats, to-do lists that come along with the answer. It's usually just a very clear, concise, one word, one phrase, one image, and then it disappears. Okay? Remember that the messages that are coming through from your spirit guides are to help you get into alignment. If it's what's for your highest good, if it's what's best for you, the answer is always going to feel good. Okay? Um, The best way I can describe this, right? I'm going to give the example, and I often give this example because I don't know, maybe I have more social anxiety than I'm willing to admit. But I often run into this question of do I or do I not go to this event, party, thing I was invited to? Okay. And I and so the question is, there's always the shoulds, right? There's always the yes, you should go because it's your sister's brother, your sister's boyfriend's party, blah 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 blah, right? Yes, you should go because it would mean so much to this person and this person invited you, so you need to do it, right? That is probably always the first answer that's going to come through is the shoulds. But what's the calmest answer? What's the calmest answer, right? And the calmest answer, often for me, unfortunately, is not today, right? No, stay home. Now, again, we can't get that misinterpreted or entangled with our own anxieties, but my guides will never lead me astray. When it feels good and it's right for me, my guides do push me to go, right? My guides will send me to the women's circle. Yes, my automatic answer, if someone were to ask me and I wasn't dropped in, I will often say no and prefer to stay home and do my own thing. But I'll give the example of even last week, I was invited to help co-host a women's circle. And, my first automatic answer, it was in the evening. My first automatic answer for that it would be no because I've got the kids and, it's a lot to do to get a babysitter and all of those things. And so if you were to ask me immediately, would my first answer be the calm answer? What may probably would have been no, don't do it. But when I channeled the message, it was actually a very calm, resounding yes this time. Not because I should, not because it would be good for business, not because I owed this friend who asked me anything, right? There was no caveats to it. The only answer that I got that made my shoulders relax and kind of my body just feel at ease was this really beautiful message of, yes, you need this, right? And my guide is so right. I mean, do I ever just need a beautiful little night out with a group of like-minded women to just meditate and connect with other women my age? Yeah, I do need this. And I could come up with a million reasons why I shouldn't go, right? Two little kids at home and the struggle of getting a sitter for an evening, right? And nursing, and it's an hour away, right? There's so many reasons I could come up with not to go. But my guide really very calmly, very clearly just said, yes, you need this. And my shoulders dropped, and I leaned into that and told my friend, yes, I would do this with her. So really, really trust the calmest message. Trust the one that feels good in your body and that feels calmest. And even if it's not the first answer, trust the calmest answer that comes to mind. Okay, so number 5. This one is a hard one. Number 5 is be okay with getting it wrong. Okay. To my perfectionist and people pleasing friends out there, this one is for you. Okay. You have to be willing to admit defeat. You have to be okay to be a C student or an F student. You cannot live in the place of needing to always get an A plus when you are channeling because, guys, channeling and speaking to spirit, it is not an exact science. It is not a math problem. There is often more than one right answer, and a lot of it doesn't always make a lot of sense in the moment, right? Most of the time, what comes through, especially in my experience of channeling for someone else, may not resonate with that person in that moment. I always say, usually the message doesn't resonate with you yet, right? Yet being the operative word here. But over time, the messages will make sense eventually, right? Your spirit guides are planting seeds, right? I get a lot of clients who feel extremely overwhelmed with what comes through in their session. If I lived in my old people pleasing ways, I would think that every single session that I had with a client that I was channeling for them was a failed one, right? I would sit there sitting in my ego, if you will, kind of thinking I did it wrong because they're sitting there going, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't resonate. This doesn't make sense, right? And constantly looking for that confirmation, that A plus, that check mark is going to make me not want to do this work because this client or those clients are not going to give me the confirmation that I'm asking for in that moment. But here's the thing, you guys. Usually the messages that come through that make those clients feel really overwhelmed, they make sense for them sometimes 6 months to a year later. Their guides were planting seeds. Their guides were trying to lead them back into alignment. And it wasn't a truth that they were maybe ready, fully ready to hear in that moment. And they may have felt overwhelmed in the moment. But later down the road, all of it makes sense to them. And so I have to be okay with feeling like it's all wrong for them in the moment. And I'm not going to get that confirmation, that validation right in the moment. And I have to learn to be okay with that. And so do you, right? Even when you're channeling for yourself, sometimes the messages that come through feel so wackadoodle, as my 2-year-old says, wackadoodle out there, right? And you kind of just have to have a little bit of blind faith and go, okay, maybe I'm wrong with this, right? Maybe it's totally wrong. And I'm going to say it anyway, right? I'm going to throw it out there and be okay with getting it wrong. And guys, a lot of the time as well, even if in your mind you think the message is wrong, especially if you're channeling for someone else, as I encourage you to do as a means of practicing, say it anyway because it may make zero sense to you, but it might make so much sense to the other person. Let them fill in the blanks for you. I'll give this example of one time, and I don't often do a lot of mediumship because, well, there's a lot of reasons that I don't often do it, but one of the reasons being that I find it more challenging in some ways. I find that spirit guides are a much, much clearer messages, give much clearer messages for some reason, and maybe that's just what I've more practiced in. But once in a while, clients will ask me to channel their loved ones, and one time I was channeling a message for a client, I believe it was their grandfather. And I just kept seeing this image of like a nightstand, like a nightside table. And it was like a very particular one. And I was like, I don't know what this has anything to do with anything, right? I couldn't explain it and I couldn't figure it out. And so finally I just explained what I was seeing to the client. And I said, I have no idea what this means. I have no idea what's going on here, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I explained to them this antique nightstand, this nightside table that they were talking about. And the guide kept showing it. The guide, the loved one, the grandfather kept showing it to me, and he kept showing me something. He said he kept showing me the drawer, like pull open the drawer. And the client in that moment had no idea what I was talking about either. They kind of went, okay, like thanks for the message, but I have no idea what's going on here. And so the client then just said, okay, we kind of left. We finished our session, and I got an email from that client about, I believe it was 3 months later. And the client emailed me and said, you are never going to believe this. Do you remember this nightstand that you were talking about? And I said, yeah. She says, well, her grandmother, who was still alive, had been going through her grandfather's old things and had gone into his office, which was also doubled as a guest room. And she had gone into the nightstand that was there. And it was this antique nightstand that had been given to them by her parents or something. They had gotten it at an old garage sale, but it was apparently a very valuable antique. But either way, what was important about it is that the way that I had described it, there were some defining features. I think it was the color of it or something. It was a very dark green. And so the client of mine didn't recognize it because she just didn't think about it, right? It was in their guest room, right? Just this nightstand that was sort of insignificant. But either way, in that very nightstand that I had described, when the grandmother went through it, she pulled open the drawer. And there was this family photo in there that the grandmother had been looking for ages because it was a family photo from a family reunion that had had her grandfather and all of his brothers. And it was the only image they had of all of the brothers when they were all still alive. And the grandmother really cherished having these images. I think she scrapbooked or something, and she could not find this one image that she knew she had of the grandfather and all four of his brothers while they were all still alive. And that's where it was. And it was the loved one, the grandfather, trying to get that message across to her where this photo was, where the photo was. And so the client, who was the granddaughter, emailed me and thanked me and said, that's where it was. And of course, it wasn't from her telling her to look in the nightstand because neither of us understood why. But when she did find it in the nightstand and the grandmother showed it to her where she had found it and she never would have thought to look there, but she was looking for something else, it all clicked for the client. And she emailed me and said, "You're never going to believe this." And she then sent me an image of the nightstand. And I said, "Yep, that's the one I was describing." So again, got to be okay with getting it wrong sometimes because it might not be wrong. It just doesn't make sense in the moment, and that's okay. So, and there are other times where I throw things out there and it never comes to fruition, and I have to be okay with that too. Um, but say it anyway and just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's kind of part of channeling. And so if you're a perfectionist, a people pleaser, this is your spiritual work. You've got to get over it because in the process of channeling, there is no exact, there's no exact science to it. So anyways, that's that. That's number five. So number six, this one is going to help sort of build your your own confidence, I would say, which is look and ask for signs of confirmation. So, as I had mentioned earlier, this idea of getting an image of an owl, you can ask for your own signs of confirmation. So, you can ask your guides, spirit guides, send me an image letting me know that I'm on the right path. That's usually what I would ask. The question would be to let me know that I'm on the right path. So, in a decision that you have already made, but maybe you're uncertain of, so if I had already decided to quit my job, spirit guides send me a sign to reassure me that I am correct in quitting my job, right? That I am on the right path. Send me a sign that I am correct in making this decision or that decision is aligned for me. Send me some confirmation. Trust the first image that comes to mind or the first word or the first knowing, the first thing that comes to mind, and then completely surrender it and let it go. Don't start looking for the thing. If I were to have gone around looking for owls, I guarantee you I wouldn't have found them. Okay. You have to let it go. Because again, they may not show up in the way that you think, right? I probably would have imagined that they would have come up as real owls, but later on, when I went on that trip that I mentioned earlier, they were in figurines, right? A toothbrush holder, a welcome mat, right? I wouldn't have thought to look for that. Um, so you have to completely surrender it and just say it'll show up when it needs to show up. And guys, let me tell you, when the sign shows up, it smacks you right between the eyes. You cannot miss it, and you will not doubt that it is a sign. Okay. You won't have to go looking for it, and it'll be more confirmation because it will surprise you. It will catch you off guard, and you will see it. It will be so blatantly obvious. And again, that will reaffirm your trust muscle. It really will. So I want to give you an example of a sign coming through where it really smacks you between the eyes. And this one comes from a friend of mine. So a friend of mine and I used to attend these women's meditation circles. Um, and so when I had finally started working as a spiritual medium, I used to run these workshops that helped people connect with their spirit guides and meet their spirit guides. And one of the things we used to ask the guides to do was to send us a sign that we're on the right path. And we went around the circle afterwards, kind of saying what was the sign that you got. And some people got like a heart, a star, a rose, right? Like things that you would often expect to see in nature. My friend starts laughing and she goes, "I kept seeing an image of a pineapple." And she was laughing so hard. And we were all kind of going, "That's so random, like a pineapple." Okay. Right? And so she was thinking, right, that maybe she would see a pineapple in a grocery store. Maybe it would show up in a fruit bowl somewhere, right? Like, when was she going to see a pineapple? So now this friend of mine, she owned a children's shoe store at the time. And one day she was running the shoe store and she was the only one in the shop that morning. And this mother walks in with her twin daughters, identical twin daughters, who were wearing, do you guys know those? Do you remember those shirts? I think they're still around. They're pretty popular among the little kids, where they're like made of sequins, and if you rub them one way, they're really shiny, and if you rub them upwards, then they kind of get matted, right? They kind of switch as you rub them in different ways as the sequins that flip. So she had two twin girls who walked in wearing these t-shirts with giant pineapples on them. Okay, those shiny, sparkly pineapples. She had never met this mother. She had never met these twins. And as soon as she welcomed into the store, these two little girls ran up to her and gave her a huge hug. They just surrounded her in a hug. She'd never met these kids before. Guys, this is what I mean. Like, if that's not a sign smacking you right between the eyes, I don't know what is. Her pineapples literally came up to her and hugged her. And for her, the question had been, do I close down my children's shoe store? She was feeling misaligned with it, working in a mall and wanting to start her own online business. And this was the confirmation that yes, in fact, it was time to close it. And she since did and ended up creating a very successful online business. But guys, like this is what I mean. When you ask for the signs and you see something in your mind and just surrender, it will smack you right between the eyes or potentially come up and hug you. So I always love that story. I call it the pineapple story. All right, so that's number 6. Look and ask for signs of confirmation. So, number 7 is look for opportunities to get quick and easy wins. So, whether this is playing the little confirmation games or exercises that I offer at the end of these solo episodes, or it looks like closing your eyes and picking a card and doing a few deep breaths and visualizing the number of the card that you picked, or picking a marker or a crayon out of a bag of markers and guessing which color you're holding or doing this with a piece of fruit if you pick it out of a group of different fruits and trying to visualize or hear in your mind. All of those little games that you can play and start to do to kind of just get these quick, easy wins. They allow you to start to create a narrative in your mind that proves to yourself that time and time again you can do this. And that way, you're less likely and willing to doubt yourself when you're asking the more complex questions for yourself. You know that over time, you have created or been able to get a few things, quote unquote, right, right? Where there is a much more discernible answer, where there is a right or wrong answer. And so that way, when it comes to something where it feels like we're asking something that could very much be in a little bit more of a gray area, we're much more likely to trust what comes through um, because we've gotten those easy yes or no, right or wrong answers right. We saw the right color, we picked the right fruit, we picked the right card, and we saw it in our mind, we heard it in our mind. But in addition to that, when we do these quick, easy win exercises, we do start to also recognize the way in which we channel best, right? If we're trying to figure out which card we picked and maybe you hear the number instead in your mind instead of see the number visually, or you see the number visually, but you don't hear it, right? Or maybe it's neither of them and you just know what the answer is, right? Then you also really are able to sort of reconfirm which is your strongest clair, which is also really important to know. So that way you know where to look when you're looking for these downloads to come through. So look for opportunities and create opportunities to get quick and easy wins. And don't forget to stick around to the end of this episode. I'm going to offer you a little exercise to try so that you can do that again. So let's look at number 8. And this one is trust in the context. This I mention a lot on this podcast, but for some reason, this is such a hard pill for people to swallow. And that is trust in the context. Trust that if you have called in your guides, whatever comes through to you in that moment is channeled. Don't doubt it. Okay. If you've called in your guides, you feel your insurance policy that we spoke about in number 1, right? Your hands are vibrating or your third eye is pulsing and you feel your guides are there. Anything that comes through in that moment is you speaking with an open channel. It's not coming from your ego mind, from your chattery thoughts, from your anxiety or, your own, it's not coming from yourself. It is coming from a channeled place. It is coming from your guides, from spirit, from the divine. They are channeled messages. So know that anything that comes through in the context of calling in your guides is channeled, and you can be rest assured that you did not make it up. You didn't make it up. It came through in the context of calling in your guides. You have to kind of like blanket statement say that anything that comes through in that moment is not from you. It's not from you. You channeled it because you asked your guides to channel through you, and you got to trust that. So number 9, this one's really fun, and I do offer this kind of as you for to someone who has tried practicing a little bit more. So I would say apply all of the other 8 strategies before we get to this one. And this is create your spirit guide code or dictionary. Now, this may feel a little bit contrary to what I said before about your guides being quite literal. And while they are still literal, sometimes your guides will send you the same sign or symbol or word over and over again if they have something similar to say. It's almost as if they try to create a shorthand for you so that the communication is faster, simpler, clearer. And so if they're trying to make things as easy for you as possible. So I'll give you an example. Now, again, remember that for me, I am very clairvoyant. So my guides are often, or spirit guides in general, are often speaking to me through images first and foremost. But I will explain how this makes sense in other contexts as well. So, for example, if a guide is trying to tell me that someone is an earth angel, and fortunately, I've had the privilege of meeting many earth angels in this lifetime. It just so happens that a lot of my clients tend to, or earth angels tend to be drawn to my work. And so I've had the beautiful fortune of getting to meet quite a few. And if someone is an earth angel, I will know immediately because as soon as I call in their guides, they will surround this person with a beautiful golden aura. And their guide themselves will come in with angel wings so that I know right away this person is an earth angel. That is the journey that their soul has taken. So I don't need for the guide to then start explaining to me that they're an earth angel. They don't need to say it. They don't need to say anything more. As soon as I see that gold aura and their guide looking like an angel, I know, okay, this is where we're at. And then they will usually follow that up with a series of symbols that they have created for me that show me that represent a conversation that a spirit guide of an earth angel often needs to have with that person. And so after having done this a few times and speaking to an earth angel, at first I will have saw that symbol and that symbol would have been followed by a full explanation of what that means. But I've had to have that conversation enough times with the earth angel, right? Whether it's them telling them that they're going to be extra sensitive to sounds and smells and, and tags on their clothes or whatever it is, they'll show me one sign that means that whole paragraph of explanation, right? So for me, it's, I think if I can't remember exactly what it is. I always remember it in the moment when I'm channeling. I think it's something along the lines of them showing me like an itchy tag on a shirt. And I know that that means, okay, their physical body is extra sensitive. And so then I know what the whole script is that goes along with that one little image of someone scratching their tag, right? The tag on the back of their shirt. And so the guides will kind of create this little dictionary of shorthand images for me so that I know what to say in the moment or what that means, right? I'll give another example. Um, Often a lot of us tend to be dehydrated, right? And if the guide is wanting to let them know they need to drink some more water, that in that moment they are dehydrated, the guide will always show me the same image. They will show me an image of a very clear, very tall glass of water that is full. Now, the first time I will have ever seen that image, that will often be accompanied with an explanation, a guide saying you're dehydrated, drink more water. But now every time I see that symbol, that image, I don't have to interpret it. I don't have to guess what does that mean. I know the guide is telling me to tell the person that they are dehydrated and need to drink more water. Sometimes they will add to that if the person also needs electrolytes. They will show me the brand of electrolytes that I use in my home and see them a hand dumping that into the water as a way of me knowing to tell the person that they are low in certain minerals and need some electrolytes as well. Okay. They will not show me they won't then show me a different image for different people who need if they need hydration. I'm not going to see them drinking from a water fountain or a water bottle or a different type of glass, so that I have to interpret a new image every time. No, the guide is always going to show me the same image every time to represent that specific message. So over time, you start to create a little bit of a dictionary, a secret code with your spirit guide that represents what they're trying to tell you. Because, guys, I hate to say it, but usually the messages that spirit guides have for one are often the messages they have for all. Many of us as a collective are going through the same things or need to learn very similar lessons, right? There's sort of themes of lessons that we all walk through. And so the advice that a spirit guide will give to one person may often be similar to the advice they give for somebody else, because all of us are trying to achieve a very similar goal, which is understanding and remembering who we truly are. Of course, there are different paths to the same outcome, and so obviously we have to take our different unique paths of doing so. But your guides will get you to the same end result, which is a light enlightenment. And what is enlightenment? Knowing what we're here to do or who we really are. And who is it that we really are, right? We are pieces of the master, right? Pieces of the divine. And the more we are led to remember that, the more and easier and more aligned our lives become. And so our guides will often give us ways of interpreting that are much easier. So for people who are more clairsentient, for example, you may associate certain physical sensations with certain answers, right? Similar to the yes and no exercise that I have shared previously on this podcast, where one sensation in your body means yes and a different sensation in your body means no, you will feel that same sensation every time you need a yes or a no. So you then again start to create that dictionary of what do those sensations mean for you. Um, there's the example of someone being, and this one is very cool. I've only heard of this from other mediums because I personally have not developed these clairs. But when we talk about clairgustance, so being able to taste things, or clairsalience, being able to smell things from our guides, you can those different smells or different scents can be associated with very specific messages. So I remember one medium telling me, and this medium particularly was very well versed in channeling loved ones who had passed away. He knew that when he tasted a um, I think he said it was sort of like this, like a metal in his mouth. Like it felt like a metallic taste in his mouth. He knew that that meant that the person was on a lot of medication or very ill before they passed away, because I guess the medication would have left that metallic-y taste in your mouth, right? So he knew like that there's very specific messages that go along with that specific taste. So you have to start to create your spirit guide code or dictionary. And how does this help you develop your trust muscle? Well, it allows you to recognize that there are patterns, right? That if you're getting the same sign over and over again, and that it actually does ring true for yourself and for other people, you can trust that your guide is connected with you, right? That your guide knows, or that you and your guide have a secret code together, that you and your guide are in constant communication, so much so that they're sending you the same message over and over again, with an understanding that you know what that means. So start to create it so that you don't start to create your dictionary so that you're not over analyzing, that you have certain signs, symbols, sounds, or words that represent messages for you so that you don't have to start going into the interpretation haze or craze, right? Which I, again, strongly encourage you not to do, right? Take what they're saying at face value and learn what images mean to create that shorthand. Okay, so finally, number 10. Number 10 is trust that your intuitive abilities are always within you. I so often hear this from a lot of my clients and my students, and even the people in the intuition activation community. They always say it feels like my intuitive abilities are turned off, right? They went away. I haven't practiced in a while and they've disappeared and they've shut off, right? Somebody once said to me, I think my spirit guides went out for coffee because I'm not getting anything. And guys, this just isn't true, okay? Your intuitive abilities are part of you. You were born with them and they didn't disappear. I want you to think of them like your muscles. If you break your leg, and you have to be on bed rest for a while or have your leg in a cast, just because you're not using the muscles of that leg while you're healing doesn't mean that your muscles disintegrate. They're still there. Of course, they get weaker and they need to be strengthened once your bones have set and healed. However, they don't disappear. Once your muscles are there, they're there. You're born with them and they don't disappear. You always have your intuition. You were born with it. The question is, are you out of practice? Are you working to strengthen it? And similar to a muscle, if you don't, it's not a if you don't use it, you lose it. It's if you don't strengthen it, it gets weaker. That's the only difference. And so, yes, with your intuitive abilities, practice always makes progress. And the more you connect with your guides, the more you practice, the easier it will be But be rest assured in the fact that they never, ever, ever go away. They are always at play. You always have the ability to walk, right? You always have the ability to, as long as you haven't broken your leg, right? But your muscles never go away. The question is, are you going to move from a place of, lifting 5 pound weights to lifting 50 pound weights, right? And where are you on that scale? So, if you're only used to lifting those 5 pound weights and picking up on little signs and symbols, then, that's maybe where all you're at. And the less you practice and the less you get connected to or start recognizing your intuitive abilities, maybe the less clear, less obvious it is. But the more you work on it, the more you practice, the more you listen to this podcast and practice the exercises that we share here, the stronger it's going to get, the easier it's going to be to recognize, and it's just going to feel like everything's turned on. But they don't ever turn off, they never disappear. So take heart in that, trust in that. Your intuitive abilities never ever disappear, just like your muscles never ever disappear. They're within you, they're part of you. And so trust that. And as you move forward, know that they didn't go away, and stop telling yourself that story. They're within you. You just got to remember to use them. So, those are my 10 strategies to help you stop doubting yourself and actually start to trust your intuitive abilities. I'm going to recap them really quickly for you. So, number one is to create your insurance policy, receive that physical sensation so you always know that your guides are with you. Number two, practice on others and share the knowings, downloads, and messages that you receive. Number three is try not to second guess or overanalyze the messages that you receive. Take everything literally and at face value. Number four is look for the calm. If the answer is for your best alignment, it will always feel good for you. Number five is be okay with getting it wrong. Let go of your perfectionist and people-pleasing tendencies, and know that even if it doesn't make sense right now, doesn't mean it won't make sense later. Number six is look and ask for signs and confirmations. Trust that the image that comes to mind is what is going to come through, and then let it go and let it show up and smack you right between the eyes later on. Number seven, look for opportunities to get quick and easy wins. So play those intuitive games and get those wins, and learn to trust that you can do this. Number eight is trust in the context. Trust that if you have called in your guides, they are there and you are channeling. Number nine is create your spirit guide code or dictionary. And number 10 is trust that your intuitive abilities are always within you and are always turned on. They don't go away and they don't turn off. The question is, are you practicing and strengthening them? Okay, guys, I that is all I have to share about helping you get over your self-doubt. And the last thing I do want to say before I give you our little intuitive development exercise is that as you continue to go down this road of developing, strengthening, activating your intuitive abilities, you're going to start to recognize that your intuition really isn't all that magical. Okay. It's not this external experience. It doesn't feel like a movie that shows up in front of you. It's not an apparition. It really is this thing that's always been a part of you your whole life. And this journey of intuitive development is more getting used to recognizing what that feels like in your body and how you receive those messages, rather than looking for a magical external experience, right? It really was never outside of yourself. Clairvoyance looks and feels like your own imagination. Clairaudience and claircognizance look and sound like your own thoughts. Clairsentience feels like those shivers that you've always gotten down your spine since the day one of your life, right? Remember that you are a masterpiece. You are a piece of the master. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be willing to believe that the thoughts and signs that pass through your body and feel like your own are, in fact, divine ones, because you are a piece of the divine. So trust that you are always channeling. You are an antenna for divine messages. You just have to recognize them and trust that they are there. So that's all I have to share with you guys for this. And I will hit you with this intuitive development exercise. Okay, guys. So the intuitive development exercise for today is going to be a clairsentience one. This is not necessarily a quick, easy win in the sense that there's a right or wrong answer here, but it is a quick, easy win in the sense that Every single person can feel this. And we just did this exercise in the intuition activation community. And guys, it is so, so powerful. So, what we are going to do is we are going to activate our own personal healing energy. We all have access to our intuitive ability, to a healing energy, an energy that can come through us from our guides, and we can feel the physical sensation. This acts as a quick and easy win because you're going to actually feel a physical sensation in your hands. So I'm going to have you close your eyes for a moment. Please join me now in doing so. And we're going to start by taking a few deep breaths together. So this is going to be in through your nose, filling your belly, and out through your mouth with an open mouth, powerful sigh, no blowing through straws here. Let's begin. Deep breath in and let it go. And again, deep breath in and let it go. And last one, deep breath in and let it go. We're just going to take a moment to call upon all of your spirit guides, your loved ones, ascended masters, angels and archangels, and all those beautiful benevolent beings of light who walk with you to come and join us in this moment, in this guided exercise. We ask that we only connect to those of love and of light, of the highest vibration and the highest good, and that they reactivate and strengthen your intuitive and healing abilities today. I'm also going to call upon Archangel Michael to send a healing circle of protection around you as you practice this exercise. Now I'd like you to take a moment to begin to rub your hands together, just your palms together, and create some friction there until you start to feel some heat between your palms and heat between your hands. And as you do this out loud, you're going to repeat after me. Spirit guide, please send some healing energy through my hands. Once again, Spirit guide, please send some healing energy through my hands. When you are ready and you feel that heat between your hands, I want you to separate your hands facing your palms towards each other. I want you to start to imagine a beautiful ball of light forming just between your two palms. Visualize it. Feel the color, notice the color of it. Imagine that in your mind. Start to feel this ball of light begin to grow between your hands as your palms face each other. Relax your fingers. Feel this energy begin to place energy passing through between your hands, beginning to push your hands outwards. And if you were to press up gently against this ball of light, it would feel spongy, or you would feel some resistance. It would push your hands back outward. There is a ball of light. There is a ball of energy between your hands. Now allow that energy to grow. Feel it push your hands outward. Say, Spirit Guide, please grow my healing energy. Now envision that ball of light getting bigger. Feel it literally push your hands away from each other. Feel the ball of light growing. You can test it. Place your hands or resist the ball of light. Try to push them a little bit closer together. You'll feel that energy resist you because the ball is firmly between your hands. Play with this ball of light. Grow it, shrink it. Place resistance on it or let it grow and push your hands all the way out there. Ask your guides to grow the healing energy. Feel it push your hands outwards. Guys, this is your healing energy. You have access to it anytime you need. I'm going to give you one step further. If this isn't confirmation enough that you have energy within you, that you can feel the energy within you, this healing energy is yours to use to heal you. I want you to ask this healing energy, or even ask your spirit guide, where in your body most needs this energy. Repeat after me. Spirit guide, where in my body do I most need this energy? Take a moment to trust the first message that comes to mind or image. And then take a moment to send this energy towards that place in your body, facing your hands or your palms towards that place. Palms open towards that place in your body, whether it be your heart or your throat or your belly or your mind. Hold your hands in front of that place. Envision the energy moving from the palms of your hands into that place in your body. You may begin to feel some feedback in the palms of your hands. Notice if the temperature of the palms of your hands changes from hot to cold or vice versa. Maybe the tingling sensation in your hands increases or decreases. You will also know when the energy has finished transferring to that part of your body, because you will feel that sensation disappear or complete itself. You will know when the energy has finished transferring. Once you feel it is complete, thank your spirit guides. Thank you, spirit guide. And to complete the session, you can rub your palms together once more. And if you want to try again, simply ask your guides to send your healing energy back to your hands and feel the ball start again, that ball of energy in your light, in your hands, in the palm of your hands. Reset it and send it to a different place in your body. And if you want to complete, simply rub your hands together. Thank your guides. Thank you, spirit guides. Take a deep breath and open your eyes once more. So beautiful. Guys, send me a message, either comment on this video if you're watching on YouTube, or send me a message via DM on Instagram or Facebook and let me know, did you feel your healing ball of energy within your hands? What did it feel like for you? Were you shocked to know that it was always there? I'm so curious to hear how that experience was for you. Well, guys, I'm sending you so much love and light as you head into the weekend and a beautiful rest of this crazy month of February. Don't forget to use the code FEB100 to get $100 off a spiritual guidance session with me if you need it. I am here for you. And I hope you guys are enjoying the rest of your week. Have a beautiful rest of the weekend, guys. Love you. Mwah.